Welcome back to Founders Mental Health. Do you want to talk? I'm Paula, your host. This is a podcast where we invite founders, amazing founders working in the health space, and ask them if they walk the talk. So today with me, I have Emad and Simon. Hello, guys. Good to see you.
Happy to be here.
Great opportunity.
Yeah, we met a bit of time ago at Tech Barbecue here in Copenhagen, and I learned a bit about what you're doing. And you're actually working in the mental health space, which is also very relevant to the topic that we have here, looking at founders' mental health. So I'm super curious about your journey and the chat and all the recommendations you might have for our listeners. But let's start first with the introduction. Can you, Emad, start by telling more about your background and what you do?
My name is Emad. I'm Iranian, moved to Denmark 6, 7 years ago. IT as bachelor, MBA for my master, and been in the tech world for 12 to 15 years and did a lot of different jobs. Had my own company also 8 years ago, worked from on a startup in the large corporate in Iran and also in Denmark. I was in TDC, the largest and oldest telecommunication company in Denmark, 200 years, and moved to tax ministry and then to another finance company called Visma. But I thought it's enough for me to work in corporate, and then I start my own company and quit my job from May, even though I was working on the product that we are having right now past couple of years, but fully focused from May. And yeah, along the way, I met Simon, completely random because he'll tell you more, but his wife is Iranian and we met in a community of Iranians. And I just told him about my idea of helping mental health because I was dealing with mental health myself 2 years ago, and it was a rough time. And afterward, I just wanted to help in the mental health sector, like anything that I could do. And then I told him my idea about helping psychologists or any clinicians in mental health, and he loved the idea. And then we match up together with other people that I have in the team. And since May, I built a company together with 13 people right now, plus seven mentors and advisors. And we're bootstrapping our own time and money and energy. And we are testing our product with a couple of psychologists these days and fixing a lot of things that we assumed would help, but sometimes not. Yeah, yeah, it's a long journey,
Yeah.
even though it's a short time, but it was hard. It was really, really hard since May for me. But I'm not talking too much about it. I believe you know me now, and let's switch to Simon. I think you can go with a quick introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so like Imad said, we met in an Iranian community, and besides loving Imad, I also loved his idea. I had for a long time. I had, let's say, as far as my mental health goes, the biggest challenge as a psychologist is all of the administrative burdens that prevent me from doing my job, basically. So there are many legislative requirements that are really putting some stress into our profession. And because of that, for a long time, I've had ideas about how you could potentially solve this with software. So when I met Imad and he had the idea to do something for mental health care sector, it obviously clicked. So that was a match made in heaven. The thing is, I come from a background of IT myself. After finishing high school, I started my own web development company. So I did simple websites for small businesses. I got into hardware as well, became a distributor of, I don't know if you guys heard about them ever, but we became the EMEA distributor of cryotech computers, which were some super cooled computers back then. The first company to have a 1 gigahertz CPU. So that was pretty cool back then. Then I went to Silicon Valley, worked as a programmer there for a startup. Was part of that startup for a while, called Jibe Networks, which was doing basically peer-to-peer load balancing or data distributing software, which was later acquired by Orbital Data and I believe Cisco after that. So it turned out quite well actually. But then I had to go back and study. I started studying business in Copenhagen Business School. It was business administration and philosophy. I did a bachelor on that, then moved to England and studied my bachelor's of psychology there, along with my then Iranian girlfriend, now wife. She's also a psychologist. Yeah, came back to Denmark, and in all those years, I had been studying psychology, psychotherapy, and also practiced as a psychotherapist before I became a psychologist. I've always been very enthusiastic about my field and always developing and so on, but also found it very frustrating that these administrative tasks, they really take away from the core of what I like to do, which is to treat patients, of course, but also develop my skills, learn more, and so on. So that's why I'm also really passionate about what we're doing in our company,
Mm-hmm.
because I really do believe it will make a difference, not just for me as a clinician, but for the patients, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, amazing.
Hmm.
And wow, you both have previous experience with startups and programming and everything, and you found each other. That's like
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, I think it's super difficult to find the right co-founder. We see the numbers on like why startups fail. And one is co-founders disagreements, whether it's about equity or something else. And like, I wonder, do you have any tips? How did you make it happen? Right? I mean, there is a bit of luck, but you got to that community. You went through so many steps to get there. Anything you can recommend to our listeners if they're looking for the right co-founder?
I think I can add something on top. We are not only two co-founders, we have two more co-founders. So we are four people. And finding right people, I think if I talk on behalf of Simon, is like he's like every day confused about how I can find people. Uh, but generally speaking, it's hard to find people, especially right people. Masood is one of the co-founder that I worked with him for 12, 13 years. And we had our own company 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And we started this together at the very beginning, a couple of years ago. And then the idea came along. And then we added one co-founder, which less than a month, we removed him.
Oh.
Uh, it was the time that we were being introduced to Simon. So Simon was with actually five co-founders at the time. So like we were three, and then added Simon, and then removed the one of them, and then I had another person that I always wanted to work with him, but it wasn't the right time and right thing to do. And then we added the first one. So it was a complex process.
Yeah.
And you tell me, Simon, how was your experience finding the agreement at least? Because we had up and down in the agreement part, right?
Oh, sure. I actually think the talks about equity, they went pretty smoothly.
Hmm.
And like Imad and Masood at the time were sort of opening up the talk, asking me what did I expect. And it just turned out that my sort of evaluation of myself in that context matched pretty darn well with what they had been expecting that I would say. So I guess there's some realism on both sides involved. But then, in terms of collaboration and working together, I think a lot of it can be boiled down to something Imad said when I first met Masood, and he was introducing me to Masood, and he said to Masood, you know, just see, he's a maniac like you and me. He's you know, he's still in his office. It's like 10 p.m. and it's dark outside, and he's still there working. And I think that's very true. Like for me, I have been in different startups before. I didn't even mention all of them before. I have been in other tech startups as well, where it was difficult. In any collaboration I have gone into, I've always felt that I was the one who had to push and push and push and push and push, and I was the most ambitious one. In this one, I'm actually finding that, you know, Imad is definitely the driving force, and I love it. I think, like he said I was confused about how he finds people to help us. I'm not confused. I'm amazed. You know, he's doing. He like I say to him almost every phone conversation that, you know, he's crushing the networking game, and I love that. You know, and that's one thing. You know, there are many things that I just love in our collaboration that I never expect. I was always disappointed in when I was working with people. I'm not disappointed when I'm working with Imad or Masood or Aryan. You know, in terms of all the wishes, all these fantasies I have as a clinician about features for the software. Um, Let me just say, when I've been involved in software development, I'm really good at requesting features, but usually the programmers have been annoyed with me, right? They've been like, oh, this is too much, or this is gonna take forever to build. But when I met with these guys, they were like, every time I said something that I thought, okay, this is going to be a little bit advanced, you know, then they were like, oh, what a cool idea. I love that. You know, what a
Mhm.
great idea. Let's do that. But did you also think about doing this and this and that? And I'm like, did I just die and go to heaven? This is like a candy store, or, you know, they are so professional.
Mhm.
And for me, it just makes my heart burst with joy, you know, that you can find people who are so motivated, so talented, and they like their work, right? So there's, you know, that just takes care of a lot of well, I'm struggling to find a nice word for it, but the bullshit, right?
Yeah.
The struggles. People want this, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. And how do you deal with conflicts or disagreements?
So I can tell something. Conflicts and disagreement. I learned a lot. And the first thing that I did at the beginning was, okay, I know and I believe in to my heart that we are going to disagree with each other. We are going to have conflict. Okay, first thing first, let's write down an agreement, which 5 pages of it, it's just normal agreement, and the rest is about conflict, and that
Mhm.
was like 12 page or something. And we were I came up with lawyers and everything to find out something written, but that's always by theory. So when you get to reality, it doesn't matter what you agreed upon in the paper and say like, okay, we agreed. No, we didn't agree. It's like no one read that. But so we had so far, I think, one disagreement. So, all the disagreements come from different point of view and the different level of having like, okay, I don't care about that part, but my goal or my belief is something else, but someone else believe on something else and care about that part. And we were
Mhm.
talking about something, and I gave something away and said like, I don't care about that part, and you can have it. I don't. It doesn't matter. And then when it got to the practical thing, I couldn't fix it whatever I promised, and I was like, okay, it wasn't that much important for me. Like I just put it back and tell them I couldn't do it. But it was a big thing, not that topic. it was the whole idea of me deciding something as a CEO without consulting with the other founders. And that was important. And we got it very beginning and we solved it in a nice way to understand each other. It was a time that I was like this close to cut something and say like, I don't care, let's just break the table and we do something towards one of our co-founder. And then I got a consultation from one co-founder and my wife and a friend, and I just turned down all the volume and all the fire that I had, and I was like fixed it in a nice way.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot because I learned how things being seen in different point of view. And so far, what we are doing is like instead of fixing issue at the time that is happening, because of the experience that we have, we try to discuss and communicate about the thing that might happen in the future. And I know already some of the conflict that I have with Simon, for example, but it's not a like active conflict. It will come eventually. And then the idea is like I'm trying to bringing it up in a way that we can discuss and agree. And then at the point that we get to be in a fight or something, then we already discuss about it. Like, if you disagree, you would have like expected to come at some level. But those are the methodology that I'm using these days. But
Yeah.
I don't know about Simon's point of view, to be honest.
Yeah. What do you think, Simon?
I don't really think we've had a conflict yet. So that says a little bit about as well how Emad is dealing with things.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we have had some disagreements, but I think it's been minor, if I'm honest. There are small things that we disagree on, maybe even on a daily basis, but well, a big difference for me compared to earlier startups is also maturity. Since last I had a startup, I've become a father of two, so I'm used to having disagreements at home. And speaking from my field of expertise, we also know the research does show that parents do better career-wise, where sometimes the opposite is actually what people think and talk about, but we do mature with parenthood. So small disagreements is no big deal when you have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old screaming at you when you get home.
Yeah.
That's one thing, of course. But I think actually a really important point is as well, and it's also a cultural thing, I would say. He's used to having to be strategic. So he is being very strategic. And although he might not think that I notice, I do notice him being all sneaky Persian and strategic at times. I appreciate it, actually, because I see he's making an effort. What I'm noticing is he's making an effort to get
Mm-hmm.
things to work. That's enough for me. We don't have to agree. I see that he's making a heck of a lot of effort. And, before going into the startup with him, I managed to get to know him. So, I know how his mind works, in some ways at least. And I like it. He's a very driven guy, and he's used to having to carry lots of different thoughts without just acting spontaneously on them. And that's also really important. And I really appreciate that in him. So,
Mm-hmm.
I feel quite safe with him,
Yeah.
I'm not so
That's
worried.
nice. That's nice.
This can be transformed in a feedback session between the two of you, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. The things you don't tell each other on a daily basis,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's
A bit
coming
of
on.
gratitude as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of gratitude. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Amazing. And it seems like you found a way that you have similar values. You communicate your previous experience in startups and also within mental health. It makes you more equipped to handle or even prevent bigger conflicts, but rather deflate them or discuss them more as disagreements that you handle rather than big things that can destroy the founding team. What other practices do you have in terms of mental health? You work in the area, so you are very knowledgeable. And we know that the founders are very prone to there's the daily stress, but it can lead to burnout and so on. So, do you have any practices in place to keep your sanity?
Should I start?
Go for it.
First thing first, I'm the only full-time out of four co-founders, but it doesn't make sense to get Simon out of his job because the whole purpose of our company is to help mental health, and he is actively doing it. So we don't want him to be full-time. And the other people, even though they are not full-time, but they are working 30 hours per week,
Mhm.
which is almost full-time, but they have another job as well. So if I talk on their behalf, it's hard for them uh, on daily basis. What I do is I'm trying to take the responsibility of everything almost because it is my full-time job that I spend like 60 hours or something
Mhm.
per week. And that is like the practice that I take all the responsibility and I let those other founders focus on the part that they are fully experienced. And there is an exception. We have Simon, which his experience will helping us to build the product, but the other part is his experience in the business. That's why we have more of him actively helping with the like different areas and
Mhm.
decision making and talking and seeing people and even like talking with the colleagues and find some people to help us on the actual product. So there is sometimes a hard time for me to accept that I get all the responsibility that is like the whole company. Uh, and those time is really hard. What I do is I try to call people.
Mhm.
Masoud, Aryan, and Simon. Okay, I will call them. I'll try to communicate because previously I had like 2 years of mental health issue that I come up and talk about it in other podcasts and people can just listen to it and I share the link with you.
Yes.
But the whole issue was to have an intimate relationship, like good having a friend next to you all the time and like I have my wife. We are not alone. The issue was not loneliness, but the issue was having someone next to you on the daily basis, whatever you're doing. And I believe within these four people to refill my energy,
Mhm.
as I just sometimes it being drained all the time with all the stupid tasks that I have to do as a founder is like talking with them. Sometimes getting approval, sometimes getting their opinion, even though it's not their responsibility. It's just, and sometimes sharing all the happy events that happened. Like yesterday, I called Simon and I said, like, I could manage to get a mentor and advisor who is ex Salesforce VP. And it was like amazing. And it was just me talking with a friend and say, like, this was the achievement that I
Yes.
had, and those talk will help, but definitely we have up and down time,
Yeah.
uh, mental health related, and I go for a bike ride or sauna or something to
Mhm.
steam off.
Mhm. Simon, aren't you worried when he says that he takes all the responsibility of the company and works 60 hours a week?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think he's taking a lot of responsibility in general. He's good at that, and he uh he's but you know while you guys were talking, one of the things that came to my mind was that sometimes we don't realize this startup is also a solution to mental health problems. So when you are highly professional, highly skilled people, and you are you're finding yourself having a big drive to produce something. It can be very bad for mental health to be in employment, in a, working for someone else where you don't get to call the shots, you don't get to pursue passions that will make you depressed. In my clinic, I see plenty of people who are like that, especially if it's like highly intelligent people, highly driven people. They just don't get by in employment. They really don't. They don't like it. They always feel that, whatever they see so clearly, the colleagues don't, and so on. So these the big corporations can be choking for people who have that drive. So yes, Emad is definitely really he's like pulling a freight train at the moment. But he's also enjoying that. He is enjoying, and
Yeah.
he has a lot of freedom to make choices. Us as co-founders, in part because of appreciation of that, but also because of understanding his position, we make sure that he knows also he has freedom to make decisions, so that he doesn't feel like he has to have us as a ball and chain to pull along with the freight train. So there is that, of course. And then when Emad calls me and tells me about what he's been doing, I show my appreciation. And I think, it's not a fake thing or like a mechanical thing I do. It's because I really like what he's doing. But I also think it's really important to tell him, and
Mhm.
not, I've seen in some startup constellations, people are jealous with each other when they go out and do this or that. But like we're really lifting it together here.
Yeah.
And whatever Emad is lifting, I'm really appreciative of that, and I of course make sure to show him. And then there's also what Emad is doing as a CEO. He's taking on that management role, and one of the strategies that he hasn't been talking about here today that he's employing is that he's just like, in a way, he's giving total freedom, right? He's saying, if you can't attend a meeting, just don't attend. Let me know that you're not attending. You don't have to explain why. Just, he's doing his very best to on the inside manage all those frustrations about us not being around as much as he would like to, but then on the outside, letting us know like, hey, do whatever you want, really. That's motivating for the work relationship, and of course, it's obvious to everyone that he's doing that. So that gives appreciation as well. Again, he's having to deal with those frustrations on the inside, which of course in turn makes us want to help him out, and it goes for Masood and Aryan as well. No one is bickering. Well, Emad gets his share of complaints from the team, but he's doing a good job containing all of that. So
Mhm.
yeah.
What I didn't mention was n- the part that I'm not doing. So what I learned past years was if I'm not expert in a topic, in a subject, these days I don't try to learn it, use AI to do it or do those things. What I try is to drag people in. Okay, I have a friend. I'll ask him or her very like brief and like, I need that experience you have. I know you are in some position, and I was like, I know I can't give you anything, but I hope I can give you something as an experience of being in a team, or maybe some promises that eventually, and then in that way, I can have some people around me helping the product, either developing it or doing marketing or helping us to shape something. And we give them full freedom, so nothing that we are like chaining them. And it's like, okay, if you promise 2 hours per week, that doesn't cost you that much, and we don't expect more than 2 hours. And if you're happy with that, I'm fully happy. Like, if you could help me 2 hours, it means a lot to me. And with that being said, I'm not getting the stress of like not knowing marketing, design, sales, brand, strategy, those areas that I have some knowledge, not deep, I'll try to get help. And it doesn't mean that I have to deal with and getting stressed. Okay, now I have to know everything about whatever. No, it's like I'll do it and I'll ask for help. And it worked. Like you wouldn't believe it. Just what I said in that other podcast was like, just reach out to people and tell them your story, and then don't think on their behalf,
Yeah.
and you will get whatever it's best for you.
I think we're coming full circle to the part where you're a master at networking that we discussed in the beginning. This has been amazing, guys. We're approaching the end, so I just want to give you the opportunity if you want to share something more about how people can reach out to you, or if you're looking for anything at the moment for your startup that we share with the audience.
I can start. First, I really appreciate this podcast that you're managing and building around the mental health, and it definitely helped. I really enjoyed listening to it. So, what I want to share is I'm building a community around a mental health retreat for developers, and that it will come in February as a conference. But sometimes I get stressed for that, and I'm thinking of maybe I should cancel it or I should not. But it's about mental health of developer, which is me. I don't want to get the stress to do that, and I'm not focusing that much these days. But generally speaking, I'm trying my best to make it happen in February in Denmark. Other than that, we're definitely looking for investors. So if any investor or listen to this podcast, I love to talk with them.
Absolutely. Excellent. And for the developer conference, what's the name of it so people can search for it?
So I can give you two names. First is like our company, our product called Saichologist. Instead of PSY, it's SAI, but the same wording and even same pronunciation. .com. And then a conference called MaizeConf. It's MAIZE, and the conf is conf.
Mhm.
And it's maze.dk/conf
Okay.
that you can just go and see
Excellent.
more.
Excellent. And we can include these links also in the show notes for people to find them.
And whoever listens to this podcast can also get 15% discount on the ticket as well.
Ooh, nice. Anything else to add, Simon?
Well, if there are anyone in the mental health care industry out there, please, if you're interested in hearing more about our product, our marketing is not up to the point where it's completely obvious what we're doing here yet. But if you're interested in the product, reach out, and I, as a clinician, can tell you more about it in ways that only a clinician would be able to do. And also, of course, we are looking for testers. So please reach out and be part of shaping this product. It really helps us out whenever we hear from colleagues.
I say one more thing is like Simon would hate me. And it's against my ego as well. So, but if anyone listening to this podcast and needs a psychologist, Simon is here. I wish you can find time on his schedule, but yeah.
Absolutely. You're very welcome in my clinic as well, of course.
Amazing. Simon, Emad, thank you so much for being on this podcast and sharing your journey. And I'm excited also what the future brings for you on this. And I will be following closely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.